Hey guys, tonight we drift into a story of dust and silence, of a rancher whose only company for 3 long years has been the wind, the creak of a rocking chair, and the memory of a love he once failed to save. The sun still burns over a cracked desert floor, but something changes today, something you don't expect. You see 6 figures, kneeling in the dirt outside your gate, their faces streaked with blood and dust, dresses torn like the aftermath of a storm. And just like that, your world tilts. You probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, drop your location and what time it is where you're watching. I love seeing where the story reaches. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You grip the railing of your porch with cracked knuckles, squinting through the merciless sunlight. You haven't spoken to another soul in 3 years. Not since you told the world to go to hell and meant it. Not since Sarah. But here they are. 6 women, no more than girls really, collapsed at the edge of your land like drop dolls. One tries to stand, but she sways, blood soaking the side of her dress. Your first instinct is to turn back into your cabin, shut the door, lock the memory of their faces away like you've done with every other ghost. But then the red-haired one, Clara, you'll learn, lifts her head and croaks a plea so cracked and hopeless it makes something deep in you twitch. They're hunting us, she says. It's been said that in the mid-1800s, frontier law could be as empty as the horizon. Whole towns were built on lies, and justice came faster from a barrel than a courthouse. You've seen it before. Hell, you tried to forget it. Your throat aches just answering. You need to leave, but they don't move. One girl clutches her ribs. Blood seeps through her fingers. Another has a bruise shaped exactly like a handprint blooming across her collarbone. They didn't just get lost out here. They were driven. They took our wagon. Killed the guide, Clara says. Said they'd do worse next time. Please. You're the only soul between here and the border. The word border hits like a fist. It means lawless country. It means fugitives. You've seen this play out before, and it ended with your hands shaking over a freshly dug grave. If you help them, you die. If you don't help them, they die. Good luck sleeping on either choice. Then Clara collapses. You don't remember walking down the steps. You just know your hands are catching her before the dust does. She's light. Too light. Her breath is shallow, like someone who's been running from death itself. You lift her easily and yell over your shoulder for the others to get inside. No one questions you. Inside, your cabin transforms. From a silent bunker to a triage ward. Women lay across the floor, on sacks of flour, slumped against your empty hearth. You catch sight of your reflection in the lantern glass. Sunburnt, bearded, eyes hollow from years of penance. Now 6 strangers are bleeding on your floor, and one of them has fever. Alone, huh? Clara mutters through her pain, glancing around your spare room. Wasn't a question. By choice, you reply, and you're about to find out why. Outside, the air shifts. Horses. You hear them before you see them. Hoofbeats urgent and fast. A rider's cadence that says military or worse. The 14th Amendment outlawed slavery back in 1868, but that never stopped men from finding new names for the same crime. Indentured servant, work debt, rehabilitation labor. But you know what they really are. Predators. And Clara confirms it with a whisper that chills your bones. Slavers, she says. And the man who sold us? Federal marshal. Badge and everything. You stop. No. Name? You ask? But you already know. You've known since the moment your gut twisted and your rifle felt heavy in your hands again. Wade Garrett. The name drops like a stone into a silent well. Historians still argue whether Western justice was ever justice at all. The line between lawman and outlaw was often as thin as a shadow at high noon. Garrett was that shadow. The riders are close now. Less than a mile. You do some quick math in your head, distance, time, angles. You've done it before, back when you still wore hope like a badge. That hope got buried with Sarah. But not today. You gather the sickest girl, Grace, though you don't know it yet, and carry her into the cabin's center. The others stagger behind. You slam the door, bolt it, and draw a rifle you haven't touched since the day you promised yourself never again. There's no way out of this without blood. But maybe, for once, it won't be yours. You stand in the center of your cabin, rifle in hand, as the hoofbeats slow just beyond the ridge. 6 riders. Maybe more. You can't see them yet, but you can feel their eyes. Feel the air thicken like it always does before a fight. They'll search everywhere. Clara warns from where she's half-slumped near your wall, hands still pressed tight against the bleeding at her side. These men, this isn't their first time. You nod once. Of course it isn't. Anyone willing to traffic human beings and do it behind a badge? That kind of filth is born knowing how to hunt. There's a root cellar beneath your floorboards. You built it yourself when winter nearly killed you your first year out here. It's stocked with supplies, water, and enough ammunition to make a small army nervous. But Clara shakes her head. They'll find it. They're devils in human skin. You've seen your share of devils. And Wade Garrett? He used to wear your Sunday dinner invitations. The man showed up at your doorstep once with a preacher's smile and eyes like butcher knives. You remember that day like a wound that never closed. Garrett had a reputation. He rode into towns on a federal paycheck and left with whatever he wanted: land, gold, women. Said it was justice. Said you owed him. He said Sarah was a debt. And you didn't fight. Outside, the riders fan out, surrounding the ranch like vultures that already smell the kill. You peek through the slats in your shutter. One of them glints in the sun, metal, a badge. They've been tracking us 3 days. Clara mutters, breath thin. We lost our guide back at Red Rock Canyon. He tried to lie. They shot him. Said women like us don't get second chances. You notice one girl, maybe 16, rocking slowly near the fireplace. She hasn't spoken a word, but her blue eyes track everything, like she's waiting for the walls to cave in. Historians still argue whether the frontier created evil men or simply gave them a stage to perform on. Either way, Garrett's show was always sold out. The hoofbeats stop. Silence follows. Then, a voice, sharp, clear, condescending. Afternoon, friend. We're looking for some stolen property. 6 women. Ain't seen any like that. Have you? You step outside, rifle in hand, shoulders squared like you used to be someone. Garrett sits tall on his horse, smile full of teeth. He hasn't aged a day, only rotted inside. Don't get many visitors, you say flatly. Mind if we take a look? You planning to ask polite or just kick the door in? One of his men, scar-faced, dead eyes, spits into the dirt. We got authority. You got something to hide, old man. You feel sweat bead under your collar, but your aim stays steady. These men are itching for violence. You've seen that too. And Garrett? He's already dismounted, just like he did back then. Always gets off his horse before he ruins someone's life. He steps onto your porch. Funny thing about hermits, he says. They got secrets. Big ones. Behind you, you hear it. A sharp, involuntary sound. One of the girls crying out in pain. Too soft for most ears. But not his. Garrett's head cocks like a hawk catching scent. What was that? Wind. You lie. Loose board. But it's too late. He draws his pistol, gestures to his men. Search the place. They move in unison. Efficient. Trained. This isn't their first abduction, and it won't be their last. You raise your rifle and block the door. I said no. For one heartbeat, the world holds its breath. 6 rifles shift toward you. The whole desert seems to lean in. Garrett doesn't blink. You're making a mistake. Those women are indentured. Signed contracts and everything. You laugh dry, bitter. Slavery's still slavery, even with paperwork. Inside, Clara's voice cuts through like a whip. Lies. We never signed a damn thing. He drugged us. Took us from a church social in Kansas. That gets his attention. You see the flicker in his eye, recognition. Regret? No. Just annoyance at being exposed. He looks at you again. You got a hero complex now, Thaddeus? And just like that, your name's out there. Spoken like a curse. He knows you. Of course he does. Garrett leans in almost kindly. Still trying to redeem yourself for what happened to that wife of yours? Your knuckles whiten on the stock of your rifle. He sees it and grins. What was her name again? Sarah, right? Pretty little thing. Died screaming your name. The words gut you. But before the rage can blind you, Clara speaks again. That's not true, she says, forcing herself upright. I was there. I knew Sarah. She didn't die begging. She died fighting. Broke a man's nose before they dragged her away. And the last thing she said was she knew you'd come. The truth hits like a hammer. Sarah never gave up on you. Garrett flinches just slightly. That mask of superiority slips. Shut your mouth, girl. But Clara won't. She believed you'd find her. And now you did. You feel the weight of 3 years of guilt peeling off your back, replaced by something heavier, but sharper. A direction. Purpose. Garrett sneers. Touching. But this ends like it did before. He reaches for the door. And that's when you move. The rifle rises, smooth and certain. The barrel stops an inch from Garrett's chest. Your hands don't shake. This is private property, you say. And I meant it. The moment your finger rests on the trigger, the air shifts. The heat doesn't break, but something else does. Control. 6 rifles level at you in the yard. Nerves wound tighter than piano wire. But your barrel stays aimed square at Wade Garrett's black, shriveled heart. He raises both hands slowly, mock calm. You really want to do this, friend? You already did, you answer. Garrett studies you. Not the way a friend looks at an old companion, but the way a butcher sizes up a pig measuring fat, guessing resistance. His eyes flick to the porch steps behind you, the cabin door, the cracked shutters. He knows they're in there, but he hasn't decided if you're bluffing. A bead of sweat rolls down your temple, and you ignore it. You're interfering with federal business. One of his men says, his voice oily with manufactured authority. You harboring stolen property. That's a hanging offense. You shrug. You plan on building a gallows right here? Or just shoot me and bury me in the pigpen? They don't laugh. That's the thing about slavers, they don't have humor, just hierarchy. Garrett's expression shifts from poker-faced calm to something darker. He leans forward slightly, and in a voice meant only for you, he murmurs. You know, I remember the way she screamed. Sarah, your wife. But I remember more than that. I remember how quiet you were while she died. And there it is. The wound. Salted. But before your rage can blind you again, something cracks in your memory. A voice, younger, clearer, still haunted. She fought like hell. Clara's voice. You didn't let Sarah die in vain. You didn't do nothing. You failed once, but not again. Inside the cabin, something moves. A flicker in the window. You don't turn, but you know. Clara's up. Rifle or shotgun in her hands. The others, too. You've been alone for 3 years. But you're not alone now. Garrett senses it too. His posture stiffens. You know what I think? He says, louder now for everyone to hear. I think you got history. I think this is guilt, not bravery. You're trying to fix something that broke a long time ago. But newsflash, friend, it's still broken. He's goading you, trying to make you twitch, make you flinch. One wrong breath and they'll fill you with lead. You steel yourself. Her name was Sarah, you say, and you're not touching another soul. Garrett's hand twitches. The same gesture that cost a dozen men their lives in a dozen towns. But this time you're faster. The rifle roars like thunder. Wade Garrett stumbles backward, disbelief on his face as blood blossoms across his chest. He crashes down the porch steps, his badge catching one last glint of sunlight before it's swallowed by the dirt. And all hell breaks loose. His men open fire, windows shatter, bullets chew through the cabin walls. You drop to one knee, rack the lever, fire again. One rider jerks sideways in his saddle, then collapses. You feel the wooden post behind you splinter as a round punches through. Another round whistles past your ear like a wasp with a grudge. Then, over the chaos, you hear the blast of a shotgun. Double-barreled, heavy, angry. Clara. She's in the doorway, dress torn, face pale, but eyes locked like a hawk. Her blast takes a man off his horse, screaming. You duck behind the water trough as more bullets fly. The old habits flood back. You count shots, mark angles, calculate trajectories in your head like it's 1869 again, and you're fighting border raiders with a cracked Springfield and a bottle of whiskey. Then more shots. But not from your rifle. The others. The women. They've found the weapons in the root cellar. You forgot how many you'd stashed there. Old cavalry pistols, a few revolvers, even your father's old musket. You never expected to use them again. But they did. They fight like they've got something to prove. Something to protect. Like you. 2 more riders fall in the hail of bullets. One crawls, dragging a shattered leg, and you don't stop to ask questions. You fire and he doesn't get up. The remaining 2, they bolt. Hard. No loyalty in slavers. Just fear and greed. And when greed dies, fear takes over. The dust cloud that trails behind them is all the proof you need. They're not coming back. It's over. The silence that follows the last shot isn't peaceful. It's raw. Rattling. You stagger up, your ears ringing, hands shaking. At your feet, Wade Garrett lies sprawled in the dirt. His face pale. His badge still pinned to his chest. The man who took everything from you. You kneel beside him. You remember Sarah now? You whisper. He doesn't answer. Dead men don't apologize. Behind you, Clara lowers the shotgun with trembling arms. She's bleeding, you realize badly. But she's standing. She'd be proud of you, Clara says softly. Sarah. She'd be proud you finally stood up. You nod once, numb. It doesn't feel like victory. Not yet. Inside the cabin, the youngest girl, Grace, whispers something. She's burning with fever, but her words are clear. You saved us. Not quite, you think. But maybe it's a start. A fun fact? In 1872, a woman named Mary Fields became one of the first African-American women to carry mail on horseback. She traveled alone across dangerous territories, armed and fearless. Some called her a hero. Others just called her trouble. But she did what no one else dared. You wonder what they'll call these women. Because whatever's next, they're not going alone. The air smells like gunpowder and blood. The sun is sinking fast now, casting long shadows across the dirt that feels too quiet, too still. Like the earth itself is holding its breath, unsure what comes next. You rise slowly from the dust, rifle loose in your hands. Garrett's body lies still. A stain in the sand that won't wash out no matter how many storms roll through. The other slavers, 2 dead, 3 scattered, left behind more than blood. They left behind truth. And truth is heavier than any corpse. Inside the cabin, Clara slumps against the wall, breathing in shallow, ragged pulls. You rush to her side, cradling her gently like something fragile. Her eyes flutter open. You still here? She jokes weakly. Couldn't find my horse? You mutter back. Figured I'd stay. She smiles barely, but it's real. The other women are tending to their own. You recognize strength there now, not just desperation. They've seen death and stared it down. And somehow you all came out the other side. Except you. You're not the same. Clara presses a trembling hand to your chest. Thaddeus, I meant what I said. Sarah fought. She didn't go quiet. And the memory returns. Not a scream this time, but her voice. You don't have to fight for me. Just don't forget me. You didn't forget. You just buried it under 3 years of silence. You sit by Clara as the others barricade the windows, reload weapons, tend to the fevered girl. Grace, you learn. 17. Taken from a church choir, same as Clara. They all were. Garrett had a system, Clara murmurs. He'd show up offering jobs, teaching, nursing, sewing. Promised safety. Then they'd drug us, load us in wagons. Where were they taking you? She shrugs. Does it matter? We weren't supposed to survive long enough to ask. Outside, dusk creeps in. Coyotes cry in the distance. Maybe mourning, maybe laughing. Hard to tell with coyotes. You sit in the doorway now, rifle resting across your lap, watching the sky shift from orange to bruised purple. It's the same porch you stood on alone for 3 years. But now the quiet doesn't feel holy. Feels haunted. Clara limps out and sits beside you, wrapped in a threadbare blanket. You still blaming yourself for her? She asks. You don't answer. She touches your wrist. Can I tell you something else about Sarah? You nod. She fought for us, not just herself. Said she'd been saved once, and she'd be damned if she didn't pass it on. Said that even if she couldn't survive, someone had to. She gave me her ring to hide. Told me it was proof she hadn't gone quietly. Said to give it to the man who came for her. Clara reaches into a satchel you hadn't noticed earlier. From a folded cloth, she pulls out a small gold ring. Simple, worn, engraved inside with tiny initials. SB plus TB. You stare at it, every breath stuck in your lungs. She believed in you until the end, Thaddeus. Even when you didn't. You can't speak. Just take the ring like it's a flame you might drop. You slip it into your shirt pocket, right over your heart. A fringe fact floats to mind. Did you know that in 1849, an entire town in California passed a law banning mirrors? They believed reflections could trap a person's soul. Funny thing is, you feel like your soul's finally stepped out of glass for the first time in years. Clara rests her head on your shoulder. What happens now? You don't know. No one teaches you how to rebuild a life after the walls come down. You spent so long surviving that you forgot what it means to live. But maybe you don't have to figure it out alone. You look around. At Grace, who's finally asleep. At the girl with the scar who just cleaned her own rifle like a soldier. At Clara, breathing, healing, burning with more life than you thought could exist in one body. I've got wood tools, you say. Maybe enough for a wagon. We could head north, find a town that doesn't ask too many questions. Clara raises an eyebrow. We. You smirk. You think I'm staying here, listening to coyotes flirt all night again? The fire crackles inside. The women have gathered, sharing what little food they've scrounged. You hear laughter, low, cautious, but real. You hadn't heard laughter in that cabin in, well, not since Sarah. You stand slowly, offering Clara a hand. Come on, let's go in. Someone's got to make sure Grace doesn't burn the stew. As you step inside, the last rays of sunlight stretch across the cabin floor like fingers reaching through time. And for the first time in years, they don't feel like reminders of what you've lost. They feel like light finding its way home. 6 months later, the cabin stands empty. The porch still creaks. The shutters still rattle when the wind sneaks through the canyon. But the fire's long gone out, and so has the man who once haunted these hills like a ghost. You're in New Haven now, a town 2 territories north, nestled between juniper groves and soft, rolling ridgelines that catch the morning light like a secret. It's not much. Handful of buildings, 1 sleepy saloon, a general store that smells like molasses and gun oil, and a post office that's more pigeon coop than proper institution. But it's yours now. Yours and theirs. You built the schoolhouse yourself. Used the same hands that once carved solitude into the beams of your cabin. Hands that shook when they pulled the trigger on Wade Garrett. Hands that held dying girls and stood firm against the devil himself. Now those hands build desks. Simple. Solid. No frills, just like the man who made them. Every window in that school was measured by your eye. Every floorboard sanded until the splinters surrendered. It's not fancy, but it's the first safe place those 6 women, those 6 warriors, have ever known. Clara teaches reading and numbers. Her voice carries like a bell across the room, and when she smiles, you'd swear the whole town leans in to listen. Grace teaches history. The same girl who once burned with fever now stands tall, unshaken, telling tales of resilience with the fire of a preacher and the precision of a clockmaker. She's 16 going on 100, and every child in that room watches her like she holds the map to freedom. The others teach sewing, music, prayers. You don't ask them to relive their stories. You just listen when they offer pieces. And sometimes, in the stillness of dusk, you hear their laughter from the schoolyard. The kind of laughter that doesn't flinch at shadows anymore. You married Clara on a spring morning. The desert gave you wildflowers that year, scattered across the hills like confetti. She wore Sarah's ring, and when she said, "I do," the wind blew so soft it felt like a blessing. There were no guests, No hymns, just the six of you, a borrowed Bible, and a sky that stretched wide with forgiveness. They said you looked like a man reborn. You didn't argue. Some nights, when the sun fades behind the hills and you're alone on the porch, you swear you can still hear Sarah's voice in the breeze. Not haunting, just watching, just proud. They say the Old West was a place for men with guns and bad intentions. But that's only half the truth. The rest belonged to the ones who survived anyway. The ones who refused to disappear. The ones who knelt in the dirt, not to surrender, but to rise again. Historians still argue whether the American frontier was ever truly tamed, or if it simply changed faces, became less visible, moved into offices and boardrooms and courtrooms where the slavers wear suits instead of spurs. But here in New Haven, you see something wilder than violence. You see healing. You see choice. And maybe, just maybe, redemption. You no longer jump at hoofbeats. You no longer flinch at the sound of your own name. And when you hold Clara's hand, when you hear the children reading out loud from the schoolhouse windows, you no longer feel like a man hiding from ghosts. You feel like a man who came back from the dead. And in a world that rarely offers second chances, that's more than enough. The town of New Haven sleeps now. The lanterns are out. The schoolhouse windows flicker with firefly dreams, and even the dust has settled into stillness. You sit on your porch, one arm around Clara, the other resting loosely on your knee, and the night hums with the sound of nothing urgent. No hoofbeats, no shouting, just wind brushing the wheat like a whisper. The stars overhead are bold tonight, strung in threads of ancient light that watched your whole story unfold. If they could speak, maybe they'd say you did all right, that you made the right choice even when it felt like the end. Maybe Sarah is among them now, burning bright, free of pain, watching as the man she believed in finally believed in himself. The women sleep safely now, scattered in nearby homes, in bunks you helped build, surrounded by children learning how to read, how to laugh, how to hope. The pain hasn't vanished, but it's changed shape. It no longer controls you. It's a scar, not a shackle. The kind that says, you survived. You grew. You fought back. You close your eyes, listen to Clara breathe beside you, and let that soft, late-night stillness wrap around your bones. You earned this peace. And in that gentle dark, the ghosts of the past don't haunt anymore. They keep watch, just like you.